Yo, I'm Bob. Into Star Wars, happen to be totally blind since birth, talking about Season 1, Episode 7 of The Acolyte on Disney+. Plus. This one premiered on July 9th in 2024, and it's called Choice. Spoilers ahead. If you haven't watched the episode, you might want to do that, or you're going to get spoiled. That being said, jumping right in, and you were warned. So when we jump into the episode and we get that text on screen that lets us know we're jumping back 16 years. I'm thinking, oh, we're going to be seeing events after the fire. We're going to be seeing what May was up to. But no, we're getting the flashback events from the previous episode, but this time from the perspectives of the Jedi. We do get some interesting new scenes peppered throughout the episode. I wish we gotten more new scenes than we actually did. But I think a lot of these scenes are probably filmed from different angles. Not that the audio description track points that out, but I'm guessing, probably is, since we're seeing a lot of these events through the eyes of Sol, Torben, and Dara and Kelnaka. So right away, yeah, Torben, he just wants to go home. He's tired of being off of Coruscant. He doesn't really care for Brendok. And, you've got these Jedi, they're taking soil samples, they're attempting to figure out why there is life on Brendok. Because, we hear mention of the great hyperspace disaster that took place 100 years before. You can read about that in Light of the Jedi book that takes place in the High Republic series. Yeah, we get that mentioned in live action. They're trying to figure out why in the heck this planet is teeming with life. And we find out later on that they are trying to study a vergence in the Force. And, well, the first time I heard the term used, it was in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, of course. That wouldn't be the first time that Star Wars fans had witnessed a vergence in the Force. Of course, in that instance, it was located around a person, Anakin Skywalker. We have seen vergences in terms of location before that, though, like the cave on Dagobah. Unbeknownst to me, when I listened to the Dark Forces trilogy audio dramas before Episode 1 even came out, I was witnessing a vergence in the Force through the Valley of the Jedi. And so that was really interesting. I love that trilogy. I go back to that quite a bit. There was also a vergence in the Force located on the planet Biss in terms of the expanded universe. There's a dark side vergence. You have light side vergences, dark side vergences, neutral vergences, things like that. Locations of great power in the Force, or, every once in a while you may have a vergence located around a person like Anakin Skywalker. In terms of the new timeline, we've seen vergences, Force vergences in terms of the Temple on Lothal and Rebels. If you've played the Vader Immortal video game, yes, I've watch the cutscenes of that in my own way. There is a vergence in the Sith cave there on Mustafar. Vader is really interested in some dark side power he's trying to tap into in that video game. Such a cool story. But yeah, we've seen vergences before, and these guys are just trying to figure out how in the heck life is able to thrive on Brendok. But poor Torben, he just wants to go home. And of course, you have Sol, who, he sees the twins the next day as he's out doing what he's doing, gathering soil samples. Everybody seems kind of bored at the beginning of the episode. But then, when Sol sees the twins, his interest is, I would say, piqued. And he's really interested in how they're able to use the Force. And I think right away he's kind of fearing for their safety, because he just sees these two little girls there, and then he sees some woman coming up to him. As he says later on, they're not treated like children. I think they're treated quite harshly, and he feels as though it's his duty to protect them, to help them. But he's going into this not knowing the customs of the country, if I may use that that little term there. He's kind of jumping into things head first. He hasn't really done his homework, and it doesn't really go very well, as we've seen in the last episode containing these flashbacks. So later, when Sol reports back to Indara and the others, and he mentions a Force cult, and he brings up witches, right away Torben assumes that they're Night Sisters. And, this is when we hear Sol saying, well, I fear for the girls' safety. What if they're in danger? A lot of what-ifing, a lot of fear here. So I think his actions here are, as he says later in the episode, they have noble intentions, but these noble intentions are, I think, when it comes to Sol, they're based on fear, and Torben automatically assumes that these witches are going to harm the kids as well. And I feel like Indara is the only one who's trying to get everyone else to have level heads about the situation. She's like, well, we can't just go in there with lightsabers ignited here. We don't know much about this group. These guys, these ladies don't seem like Night Sisters. Night Sisters, they don't act this way. We don't know anything about this group. We're going to go in there and we're probably going to do more harm than good. But Sol, he just insists that they need to go investigate because he really doesn't want these kids being harmed. And, you've seen the previous episode. So, we already know that, things are going to go to blazes very quickly. As they so often do in situations like this in Star Wars. I like that we get to see Cal using his slicing skills in the episode. Slicing, man, that term takes me back to some of the old expanded universe books where you had Bothan slicers, or hackers, if you want to, use our term. Makes me wish we could see some Bothans in live action or animation, because I don't believe we've gotten any of them. Probably not in the comics either. If we have gotten Bothans in live action or animation, they've been non-speaking cameos. I'm guessing probably not, though. But yeah, he's doing his thing, and then we got that scene where you had the conversation in the courtyard, and you actually get to see inside Torben's head in this episode as his eyes turn black, and you've got Mother Anastasia. Basically, she's got to ask for his consent in order to hex him. It kind of reminded me of mythology around vampires. They have to be invited in order to do serious damage, and she really kind of gets in his head, figures out what his desire is, to go home, and at the same time, she keeps prompting him. Well, you have to ask me, whatever. And so he does eventually admit, hey, I want to go home. And then she just kind of makes him catatonic for a bit there. Pretty cool scene there. I like her abilities as a witch. There was a really creepy scene. And this, I think, left a long-lasting impact on him. Apparently, the audio description track described him, as being alone in the courtyard. So she's really gotten inside his head and kind of manipulated his surroundings in terms of, being in his mind. And it's just him and it's just her. And she really throws this kid for a loop in this scene here. But I get why she's doing it, because she fears for the safety of her children. Here come these Jedi, and these kids have been created unnaturally here, and she doesn't want them taken away from her. She feels like she needs to take a hostage, but she's not as, I guess I can use the term, unstable as Coral. Coral wants to just, I think she's more up in arms about it. Anasea is at least trying to handle the situation somewhat more delicately here. I like how Osha steps in and basically diffuses the situation here by saying, that she wants to take the test and she wants to show them what she can do, because we already know by this point that she doesn't feel comfortable in the coven. She wants to do her own thing. And here come the Jedi. They are her ticket off world. I wonder if she feels more of a sense of security with Soul. And she just basically wants to leave. And Soul, well, he really wants a Padawan. I wonder where this want stems from. Because right away he feels like he needs to step in and help her. I wonder if there are, still things from his past that we've yet to see. I don't know if we're going to get that in the final episode. As I think I've stated this in another video, it's probably going to be revealed in some comic or whatever, and I'm probably going to have to hear about it from someone who's read it or whatever. But it would be interesting to see a bit more into Soul's past. I don't know if he lost a Padawan at some point. I don't know what in the heck happened, but he does seem a bit, emotionally unbalanced in some respects. And I get why he's doing what he's doing. He feels like the kids are in danger. But at the same time, I mean, this is how he was raised from such a very, very young age, indoctrinated into thinking the way that he does. His first priority is to help people. And, he just feels like these kids are in danger, and he's bound and determined to get her away from the coven, to get Osha away from the coven. May as well if he can, but I feel like, even now he views May as more of a someone who really wants to stay with the coven. I think he feels a connection with Osha, and at the same time, I like how Andara's trying to get him to see reason. She's like, well, don't confuse what Osha wants with what you want. Yeah, but at the same time, he's just bound and determined that he knows best. And we get the test from May's perspective here. She's really not interested in leaving at all, and she's purposefully failing the test. But I like how Indara is doing what no one else seems to be doing. She's asking questions about May's marking. She's trying to gather as much information as she can on the coven. She's trying to do her homework as best as she can. Soul doesn't really ask any questions at all. He just wants to get the kid off of Brendok as fast as he can. Of course, you've got Torben taking blood samples from the girls as well, so he can get an M count or midichlorian count. You have two different approaches when it comes to giving each kid the test. I feel like with May, Indara is curious. She's asking questions, trying to gather facts. Very straightforward. And then when she leaves, I like how Soul is asking to use a different approach with Osha. He seems to be being more compassionate there. Of course he is, because he wants her off of Brendok. So he's trying to make the Jedi pitch, and you have a bit of the same stuff that we saw in the last flashback episode with the test going on. And she's encouraged to say what she wants. She's encouraged to be truthful. And, she, of course, passes the test. So the blood results come back, and I like how the M counts were very high. The girls were very force sensitive. But unlike Anakin, they're not like off the charts. They're not higher than Master Yoda in terms of midichlorian counts. Well, that we know of. I'm pretty sure that they're pretty high, but they're not. I wouldn't think that they're Anakin Skywalker level. I don't really know at this point. It's a really tense scene because the council has told them, no, you guys have interfered enough already. We're not separating these kids from the coven. We don't know much about these witches. They're not Night Sisters. And still, Soul wants to do what he wants to do. He feels like he knows what's best for Osha. And I like Indara once again trying to get him to come back down to Earth. And she's like, dude, come on. You cannot alter this kid's destiny. You don't get to decide this. And, when they find out the results of the blood test, Torben just... Well, he's already been through a pretty good bit. And I was like, oh, this is great. Now we can finally go home. And he just, runs off, gets on a speeder bike. And yeah, he's about to go start something. He just wants to go back to Coruscant. Just his head's been messed with by this point. But at the same time, I'm thinking, guy, don't go off like that. Don't go in there. You don't know what you're doing. I remember seeing this for the first time and thinking, okay, so this is kind of how we got to where we were at the end of the episode. Of course, I think we were all suspecting that things went on behind the scenes here, but it's just kind of a mess by this point in the episode. So yeah, when Torben hears, oh, well, it was one consciousness split into two bodies, possibly one consciousness that was split into two bodies. Hey, this is our ticket home. So yeah, I'm not going to pretend to know the power of this particular Vergence, but I don't know. My first thought was some kind of Dragon Ball fusion in Star Wars. Of course, I wonder if we're going to see Osha and May in the next episode. Probably fusing into one being, which makes sense. It's kind of been leading up to this. And this, of course, makes me think of the whole dyad thing from the sequel trilogy that that was mentioned in Rise of Skywalker. We got to see that in terms of Kylo and Rey. It really makes me think of that. So in the previous flashback episode, rather, you've got that scene where Osha and May are having a bit of a tiff there, and you have May going to take a walk with Coral. And here we see Coral spurring her to anger. She's really getting that fire going inside of her. She's like, you want to stop your sister from leaving? Well, then stop her. And she just starts attacking May, and May, of course, does the little force freeze effect thing, and Coral's like, yeah, good girl, get mad, there you go. And so May just goes off and starts the fire. But I like how in this episode you see her trying to put it out. She feels like, I think at the last second she wants to take it back, but those flames kind of catch and she drops the journal. The audio description describes her as at least attempting to douse the flames, and I don't think we saw that in the previous flashback episode, but you have her, I think, regretting what she's done here. She knows her anger has gotten the best of her, but I think anger is like a fire in a way, and sometimes when you turn it on, you can't necessarily turn it off once those flames have spread. If you say something or do something to somebody, you can't take it back. And once it's out there, it's out there. And she can't douse these flames as much as she wants to in this particular scene. So you've got the fire going. I keep forgetting that in the previous flashback episode, though, like right before May starts that fire, she's talking to Osha. She's like, well, you're going to stay here And even if I have to unalive you to get you to stay, so there's that. I mean, that's not cool there, kid. So yeah, when Sol and Torben show up, you have Anastasia, who is not wanting to use violence, and you have Sol, who actually asks a question. So good for him, as they're all standing there tense. He's thinking, or he's asking, how were your children created? What's going on here? He's trying to get to the bottom of it. But then, of course, you have Coral and Torben, and these two, well, they just can't hold it back anymore. You have her brandishing her staff, and he ignites that saber, and all hell breaks loose. Anastasia, I think she turns into black smoke and heads right for May. Let me check the audio description track here, because I want to see if they give us any indication as to whether or not she's trying to protect May. I got the sense that she was right away. She's moving toward her. I think she was hoping to shield her from any harm here. Sol doesn't ask any questions at all, like, oh, hey, what's that trick? What's that do? I think, he is rather fearful, and his first thought is, well, I got to keep this kid safe. But at the same time, I don't think he's seen any magic like this. And, he makes, I would call it something even more grandiose than a huge mistake. And yeah, he cuts her down. Way to go, Sol. Wow. I get why he did what he did, but of course he let his fear get the best of him. And even as Anastasia lies dying, or she's about to fall over, she lets him know, hey, I was going to let Osha go with you. This is her choice. I respect that. She chose you. And, that's when Sol realizes, oh, crap, I've done something I can't come back from. And I don't know if the audio description track describes his facial expression here, but I would imagine he's quite regretful about this. Of course he is. He's not going to be able to take this back. I think this is the weight that he's had to bear for 16 years. And in the next episode, of course, it's going to come out. It is going to affect Osha as well. And I'm kind of thinking she's probably going to go dark, because you've got this guy that you've trusted for a huge chunk of your life, and you find out that, oh, yeah, this guy unalived your mom. And I can see Kamir using that to his advantage. Oh, well, he didn't tell you everything. Your mom? Well, yeah, let me tell you something. May knows about it too. Yeah, I can see him using that piece of information to his advantage. Of course, that's going to come out in the finale. So then we get into the fight scene in the episode, because Coral is understandably ticked, and she just goes nuts on Sol. I like all of the stuff that she's doing with her staff. Yeah, an interesting accessory to equip with a 3 3/4 inch action figure at some point. I don't know if it has any resemblance to the spear or staff that Savage used in the Clone Wars, but yeah, she doesn't keep it for long. And then, well, I finally got what I was thinking we were going to get. We get to see a Wookiee wielding a lightsaber in live action. And I've been wanting to see this ever since reading or having the Young Jedi Knights books read to me when I was a kid. You had Chewie's nephew, Lobaka, who was a Jedi Knight in those books, and he had a lightsaber. There's just something really awesome about seeing a Wookiee with a lightsaber, or having it described to you. I think I saw it in my own way. But this guy, man, yeah, he gets possessed by the entire coven here, I think. And this is something that we've seen in Rebels before. We've seen witches possessing characters before. So this guy is not in control of himself, and he is a tank with a lightsaber. I like how powerful his swings are. At one point, he's got Torben backed up against, I think, a wall, and Torben is just, you can hear him screaming with as much effort as he can in order to get that saber away from his face. But it's I think it's done a lot of damage, because later on the audio description track, it goes into his, how messed up his eye is, and I think his face is somewhat jacked up here after the brief lightsaber duel. But this was a fantastic fight scene. I really liked this a lot. I mean, I think a lot of the episode for me was middle of the road. I liked some of the scenes that we got here. I like the new stuff quite a bit. I love the fight scene here at the end. And then you have Soul coming in, and I like how he's using his lightsaber hilt to try and batter at Kalnaka's defenses here, as he's trying to disarm him. He eventually does, but then you have him throw Soul across the courtyard. Such a fantastic fight scene. And of course you have Endara come in, and according to the audio description track, the witches, they are, I'm quoting from the audio description track, they're lying dead in the common room. So that doesn't really mean anything in terms of Star Wars, though. We've seen characters supposedly die before in more than one case, and then it come to our knowledge later on they're fine. So I don't think they made it out. I don't know what Endara did. I've seen folks online say that it does probably take a lot of willpower to control a Wookiee. I don't know if she interrupted their spell and they were somehow unalived, but the AD track says they're unalived. I take that quite literally. So yeah, I don't think they're in this mortal coil anymore, although they could be. they very well could be. We've seen Darth Maul manage to stave off death. Palpatine did it in this timeline and the expanded universe timeline. So, they could be fine. So then you have that final scene there on Brendok, and we see Soul having to make a choice. He's got to choose between Osha and May. He's not strong enough to hold that catwalk up. So he lets one side go, and of course May, Soul believes she's plummeted to her doom there. And I love the scene in the ship when you have Endara admonishing him. She's like, I know you wanted to save the kids, but you didn't think about the consequences. You just went in there. You two went off half-cocked, and you weren't thinking. You didn't consider the consequences. And I like how they almost came to blows over it. Soul was like, well, I had to keep the kids safe. She's like, yeah, but you weren't thinking clearly. And they almost come to blows. You have them deciding to tell the council the truth from a certain point of view, and Osha wakes up, and Soul lets her know, hey, your sister started a fire, and that's the end of the episode. I think I give it around 8 out of 10. I really liked the fight scene at the end of the episode quite a bit. I like the new stuff about the virgins that they put in there. I liked the test from May's perspective, but I kind of wish that the flashback stuff was somehow combined into one episode. I feel like a lot of the Acolyte episodes, as well as some of the other live action episodes in Star Wars, they've been a bit too short for me. I feel like we could have done with, I think someone else online had said either 8-hour-long episodes or possibly 12 half-hour episodes, because we got another flashback episode here, and next week when we get into the finale, I mean, I'm hoping it's going to be an hour, but I think we're probably in for, our usual half an hour. I would love for that to be an hour, even though I'm thinking we're probably just going to get 30 minutes. But if it's an hour, that's going to be cool. Let's see. When it comes to my favorite Vergences in both timelines, I really liked Korriban in the expanded universe. I really liked how strong in the dark side that planet was, especially the Valley of the Dark Lords. I liked getting to experience that in the Dark Lords, the Sith audio drama that came out in the 90s. I also really dug, as I said earlier, the Valley of the Jedi. That was pretty cool Vergence as well. I loved getting to read about the Jedi Temple on Coruscant being one of those Vergences as well. And we get to see, in terms of expanded universe continuity, a certain Lord Nyax who is attempting to tap into that power in the new Jedi Order books. Just a lot about Vergences that I really like, and kind of whetting my appetite to get into more of that here in the new timeline in this episode. We didn't get our questions answered about this particular Vergence. We got a bit of information here, but before the questions could be answered, you had Torben and Coral. They kind of interrupted things, and all hell broke loose by the end of the episode. I'm not really sure what to expect next week. More questions than answers, I'm sure. We might see a fusion character by the end of the Acolyte finale. I have no idea at this point. I've had a good time with this, but I really wanted to see more dark side stuff than we've gotten. So maybe if there's a season 2, we might get to see more stuff from the perspective of characters on the dark side. I really wanted to see May's training with Kamir. I thought that might have been what we were getting as the episode began, but now we just got Brendok from the Jedi perspective here. And I thought it was pretty good, but I'm really looking forward to the next episode even more. I'd say out of all the episodes, the flashback stuff didn't resonate with me as much. I liked them pretty well. I think I liked the previous flashback episode a bit better than this one. But I like the events in terms of present day a bit more. I still liked what they were going for here. I just kind of wish that this had been covered in one episode, so we could have had another episode devoted to present day events in terms of the show. Yeah, I guess next week we'll be talking about the finale of the Acolyte. I had a pretty decent time with this one. Loved the Wookiee action at the end of the episode, and I'm looking forward to the finale. So until next time, guys, may the Force be with you.